Well, thanks a lot, Tom, and thanks so much to be here today and see so many familiar friends and faces, and to share in the work that we've done together over so many years. We call it a 15-year collaborative journey. So I'd like to share some of that today. And Lucas is a good setup for that, because I think this is the water management model that we would hook on to what you do. So water is a shared resource, and I think that's what we just talked all about. Water is a shared resource. And the big question is, if it is scarce, how do we slice the pie? And so, we need water for the environment. We need water for people. We need water for food. We need water for energy. And as Lucas noted, we share our water with other provinces. So how do we slice up the pie? So I just want to step back and set a little context in terms of how we think about water and water management. First of all, water is different from other resources. And we heard earlier today about the flood. Water's very, very emotional. It really hurts when it's you. Anybody that lost their house or their business in 2013 or during the droughts in 2001, 2002 knows that it really hurts if it's you. Also, the watershed impacts are highly localized. I recall during the flood time, standing on the escarpment where we live out on the Elbow River, looking one way, and they're kind of golfing by, in the beautiful sunshine, and the guys are, yakking and drinking and doing whatever they do on the golf course on Saturday morning. Walk 400 meters, look out, and the entire valley is completely covered in water. It's really, really, really localized. The other one is that there's a debate on water as a human right, and that's been going on for quite some time now. If you look at water as a basic human right, then how do you make those trade-offs? So I always put something personal in all my presentations, and there's my picture of the mighty Athabasca River at our campsite, where we have spent most of the summers for the last many, many years. We've heard about the water cycle already. Everything's connected. It's got a natural cycle. And the other interesting thing is that groundwater, I'm not going to talk a lot more about groundwater, but it moves differently from surface water. And if there's one thing that I hope that our provincial government can do, and Peter did such a good job summarizing the great improvements in water data that we've had over the years, groundwater. Can we please invest in getting a groundwater inventory? I think that would really make a big difference. So what drove this work? And so many of you have been involved in this for so many years. And it really was the collaborative response to the drought. In 2000, 2001, all of a sudden, everybody had to make some choices and some trade-offs about who was going to get water and who wasn't. And the experience was quite remarkable in terms of how you all of you pulled together to be able to get through that period that was not good, but we got through it. And the learnings from that really led to, how can we start to utilize those relationships and put them into a form so that we can make those decisions collaboratively and together when we come into these difficult situations. The other thing that drove it is obviously a recognition that we're going to see more extreme weather events. Without even considering climate change, we've had much more extremes in weather over the years. And most of our infrastructure has been built in the last 75 to 100 years. And that's been a fairly stable time. And so we are going to see more. We are going to see more events, and we need to be prepared for them. And that's what we've seen in the last 20 years. Finally, there's a big, big pressure here to grow the food. If we have 10 billion people here by 2050, we're going to need about 70% more food production globally. This is from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and 100% more in developing countries. So, then the largest contribution to increases in agricultural output is going to come from intensification of production on existing agricultural land. And if we look around the world, and this is one of my most interesting charts about what we can see, and this is from the Department of Energy in the US, projected to 2050. Where we are sitting here right now in Canada is one of the few places in the world where we can actually have the ability to intensify our agriculture and produce more food. And I'm into food these days. I'm unabashed about that. I think that food is really important for us and for us to deliver to the world. And this, by the way, is a big policy driver too, because when we look at the challenge in a water scarce world, it's water, food, and energy. We need water for people and water for food, water for energy. And how you start to make those trade-offs is really important, and that's a big policy driver. Just because I feel like doing it today, one of the things that I'm finding quite baffling right now is we have water for energy, and that's all these big hydrogen projects. The amount of water that I'm just a dumb engineer, right? I think you need H2O to make H2, so one of the big challenges that we see is if you want to start putting a major hydrogen development infrastructure in our basin here right now, you're going to make less food. And what kind of a policy trade-off is that, and how's that decision being made, and how are those trade-offs being made? So I think this is a big challenge of our time, and why we have to look at this in a collaborative way. And that's really what drove this work over the years. So this is very busy. I think we're going to hand these out, right? Are we going to send these out, I hope? Okay, thank you. Excellent. So it's a busy slide, but it's more to say, what happened, how did this South Saskatchewan River Operations Model get started? Well, from the 2001-2002 drought, it became clear that could we develop a decision support tool that would allow these trade-offs to be made, to be able to not codify, but to bring these groups of folks together so that we could make these trade-offs and take advantage of how that drought situation was held. So there was a Bow River academic exercise. Our dear friend David Hill sponsored that at the University of Lethbridge. Probably quite a few of you, several of you were involved in that, using a US-based tool that we'll talk about in a minute, or generated tool called Oasis. And that showed that there could be some operational improvements in the basin using this kind of a decision support trade-off tool. And then starting in 2010, we actually formed the Bow River operational model based on the Bow River Working Group, and you've heard that mentioned today a few times, and Richard's been involved in that right from the beginning. And that model was really set up to look at how we could manage drought situations on the Bow River by modeling the system exactly as it actually exists. And because the folks don't want to muck with their neighbors, they don't want to shut their neighbors down. So there are water trading things that happen, and people do shift the resource around to make sure that their neighbors are taken care of. And so that's really what the exercise was about. People first. People are always first, and Indigenous, they always get their water first. That's how it practically works. So we did that in the first drought exercise in 2011, which was really interesting. It was a blast to redo it last summer as well, to see how that works. And then we went on over the years looking at the Old Man, the Red Deer, and then brought together the South Saskatchewan Watershed Roadmap in 2015, which I'll get to in a moment. The big change here that really changed everything was the flood in 2013. We were moving along, looking at a minimum flows, daily timestamp, looking at that decision model. And in 4 months, we had to turn it around to a max flow hourly timestamp, and what do we need to do to protect ourselves and protect that infrastructure going forward? And we couldn't have done that without without the relationships, because you could just assemble that group together. Here's the challenge. What do we need to do? And come out with a workable plan, which was really great. And that continues today. So I'm going to talk a bit more now about the where we are in that modeling as we've evolved over the last 15 years. So this is a collaborative modeling process. It's trying to create a trusted tool that is believed by the participants. So the 4 steps really are to develop performance measures, build a model, which we've done, test the model and explore alternatives, and then reach a shared understanding on what the path forward is. And so what that results in is it's a tool that's built by proponents, and that means the results are trusted. And that's why we can turn things around so quickly, because it's your model. It's what you have. It's what you've said should be there. The assessments are based in science. We use the best science, so it's interesting with Lucas's work. You know, we can take all those kinds of studies and actually put that into the model. And I'll come into a minute about how we've done the climate change and hydraulic modeling that's gone into this model. And then it really brings a strong relationships between the proponents, and that goes on forever. So what does a collaborative modeling session look like? And several of you've been in this is, you know, first of all, you identified interest or an objective, which we call like a performance measure. Step 2 then is, okay, given that we know the system, given we understand what the system is and how it works, how can we improve? How can we make those trade-offs? How can we make it better? We can then put that into the water resources model and review the results. And you can literally do it. There's a table there. You can literally do it sitting around a table at a computer, and the modeler just pushes a button, says, "Okay, here, what do you think?" And you push a button, and oh, that didn't quite make it. One of the performance measures that Lucas mentioned is the master apportionment agreement, and that's actually treated as a performance measure in this work. So we always have to meet apportionment. We always have to meet apportionment, or it's not a successful solution. The next step then is you can go back, see what happened. You need to revise. Is a success, and then the whole group can look at it and agree to it. And the report at the end, this important one, is that everyone needs to be satisfied or comfortable with the result at the end. So it's built in the South Saskatchewan River Operations Model. It's built in Oasis software. It's developed by a small group called Hydrologics built out of the US. About 20% of the water in the US is managed using the Hydrologics Oasis-based system, which is now owned by Hazen Sawyer. So it really does capture the physical elements, the operating rules of the system, and they have a proprietary solver technology in it. So that's the underlying technology. So what is it? It's the South Saskatchewan River Operational Model. It combines the 3 basins and is based on the best available data from the WRMM system that Alberta Environment uses and maintains, and the stakeholders. And we did a recent update. It was completed in 2021, 2022, funded by Alberta Environment and co-sponsored by Alberta Irrigation Districts Association. So what this looks like, and there's a bunch of nodes and things, is that you can actively represent all the elements on the system. So it's a mass-based model, so whatever goes in must come out, and everything has to balance at the end. So yeah, demands are modeled, the reservoirs, and the naturalized flow rates we got from Alberta Environment, and I'll come in a minute about how we're updating that in this one with, in this project with updated climate change forecasts. So that's what it looks like. It's a little intimidating, but it actually has a strong, solid basis in terms of how the system actually works, not necessarily how it works underneath the regulatory system. You always abide by all the regulatory rules, but it's not based just on what's approved. So what's come out of this then in 2015, and this is the 2015, so some of you may see some different names here, or some of these projects are now called something different, but This is what came out as a roadmap and was presented to the Alberta Environment Group and many others at the end of that. And this was all a list of what the various projects were according to the degree of adaptive capacity. It has to do with how long it would take to implement. So level 3 would be something that's a long term and very expensive versus some of the shorter term things, which the long-term water management agreement with TransAlta on the Bow as an example, which just got renewed in 2021. So there's some things that are fairly straightforward to do, some things that are more long-term and expensive. So one of the things that's been kind of interesting over the last 7 years and why we needed to update this. The green ones are actions that are already complete based on that list. These things have already been completed. The blue ones here are in progress. The large-scale flood mitigation facility on the Elbow is the SR1 facility that's being built just upstream from my house. So there's the BRRO was mentioned. So these are already in progress. And we're going to hear just after here now about the Acadia Special Areas, and that one is in progress. So we'll hear about that in a minute. And then finally, if we look at the red ones, this is the things that we are going to start immediately working on with the SROM Phase 3, which is what we launched yesterday. And I think Nicole mentioned we had our kickoff meeting, first working group meeting yesterday, and quite a few of you were in attendance at that. So what's interesting is that a lot of these projects are in progress, and that's developed in consultation with you as the water managers and the experts in the province, and it's been really great to see how many of these things have been able to progress and move forward. The Oasis Enterprise update was what we've just finished with Alberta Environment, so we now have flow data up until I think it's 2016. Thank you. Okay. 2016, and that was the best data available as of the end of 2021. The SROM hardware's model has been updated from Oasis to Oasis Enterprise. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years that had been there, so it was good to get that updated. And also this is accessible now to stakeholders, and we're just finalizing how to get that through there. SROM Phase 3 launched at the beginning of December. It's a 1-year project, so we're going to start with gathering and identifying the stakeholders, which has been done, designing the performance measures, which we started yesterday, getting the data collected and updated and the data sets in the model, and then constructing and validating and testing and getting consensus on some alternative systems. So this is what the update looks like and what we're going to be working with. And then these are how the performance indicators are presented. Climate change. So one of the big things, the reason why Alberta Innovates has invested in this project is we really wanted to have a better, we have been putting climate change implications in, but we wanted to make sure that we put something in that was acceptable and understood, or that, you can spend a lot of time arguing with people about what your climate change forecasts are. So what we've done is we actually have access to the climate change forecasts that are coming out of Alberta Environment. They're just publishing those literally now. And we're working with them to incorporate that. The model that we use for the hydrological modeling is Raven, which is that's what our modelers feel very comfortable with. They helped to develop it. And we can couple that to the SROM to provide inflows under a range of climate change scenarios. So that work is going on. I think it's going to provide a lot more information and input, and just improve. Every time you do one of these things, you can improve. You can improve the model and improve knowledge and your decision making, and that's really what we want to try and do here. You've got to use the data you've got available to you to make the decisions, and you just want to make sure you continue to use the best data that you can. So this is the Alberta environment approved, and the climate forecast that they're going to be using in all their work going forward. The working group membership, we've always had a very wide group, NGOs, NGOs, the municipalities, provincial government, irrigation districts, industry, WPACs, and Indigenous nations. So all the members are considered to have an equal voice when we're sitting at the table. That broad range of participants, it really makes sure that we are incorporating the interests of everyone who's participating in the basin and whatever suggestions that they have. So it makes for really, we had our meeting yesterday, and it makes for some pretty creative conversations in terms of what options you could be looking at. Just a quick timeline in terms of what we're going to be doing between now and the last working group meeting in November, December, and wrapping this project up in early next year, which is terrific. One of the things we found really amazing is, if you can bring together the people that know the water management systems the best, and this is from our previous SROM work, and we're going to do an update one for this project, but there's a lot of people that participate. People fund or people participate, and it really brings out the best in terms of what all the ideas and solutions and opportunities are. And I guess to kind of finalize, it's thanks for our 15+ year partnership. I think, one of the things I want to stress, this isn't a science project. We actually result in things that actually happened. The flood work after the 2013 and then 2014, these announcements were made to update the Bassano Dam spillway, and then also the Little Bow Dam and putting some resilience into that Traverse spillway upgrade. Both of those projects came out of the Bow exercise, flood exercise that we did. So it has impact, and it's important, and we're all pretty passionate about it. So thanks for the opportunity to talk today.
And I think we've got a few minutes for questions, so Kim is anxious to answer your questions. Shirley.
Hi, Kim. I have a question. Is this a government model, or is it a WaterSMART model?
Well, actually, so it's owned by all of the participants. So it's not just our model. It's not. So you can actually go on the university. Well, I don't know if we got it exactly right yet. Soon, very, very soon, to the University of Lethbridge, and you can access it and work it. It's been broadly funded, and there's a lot of public money, so it's not just our model.
Yeah, and you talk about collaboration, but I'm really well connected with the environmental community, and I'm unaware of how that input is being put into your model about how environmental concerns or environmental flows, what kind of discussion is available there? Maybe we can talk about it afterwards.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, traditionally we've had Ducks Unlimited and Trout Unlimited. They participated all the way along. The whole thing here is based on, it's kind of hardwired, and you have to meet environmental flows. That's a given, that a successful solution means you meet environmental flows. So that's in there. I think the Alberta environment, we're using their stream flow and their naturalized flow information. So I think it's in there, but yeah, Cheryl, always happy to chit chat about how to look at that.
Good. And the other thing is, you mentioned Chin Reservoir expansion is done.
Oh,
it's
no.
still got a hearing, an environmental impact assessment.
No, I'm pretty sure I said it was underway. I don't think I said, unless we made a mistake in our color, it's definitely not supposed to be green.
It was green,
blue.
I think. Look
Okay.
at it again.
We'll fix
Okay.
that. Okay, team over there is chasing after that right now. Sorry about that. That wasn't intended. Sorry, David. Any other? No, it's been a great ride. Thank you, all of you. We wouldn't be here without you. It's made a big difference. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.